The Eagles just traded Thomas Booker for Jakorian Bennett. Let's talk about it, man. Now, before we start, like, comment, subscribe, do all that jazz. I'm recording this emergency pod right before I go to the airport. Y'all pray with me that I make my flight, but we got to get this content in. All right, let's talk about this first from the Thomas Booker side and then the Jakorian Bennett side. From the Thomas Booker side, this is interesting because Thomas Booker was a great depth piece. He played behind Jordan Davis. He played behind Milton Williams. He had some great depth along with Mora Jomo, especially during the playoff run, to where even if Jordan Davis gets off the field, it's not a drop off, especially in terms of rushing the passer. Like, he was able to get pressure against the quarterback. Same thing with Mora Jomo. If the Eagles are saying we're good off Thomas Booker, that means they got a lot of faith in Mora Jomo. And I love that. That means Howie Roseman hit the jackpot with Mora Jomo, a 7th round pick in 2023 from Texas. And he's a guy who's having a tremendous camp. Reportedly, Tyler Steen can't mess with him right now. He's been all over these guys, and he's been terrorizing the offensive line. So this just tells me that the Eagles are so confident in the ability of Mora Jomo. They're so confident in Jordan Davis after he slimmed down from 26 pounds. And they're also confident in the development of Ty Robinson. Ty Robinson, a rookie, he might not start week one. Well, obviously, he's not going to start week one. But Ty Robinson might not get a lot of snaps in the beginning of the season, but you might see later on in the season it start to pick up and he gets some more snaps. So I think it was belief in the defensive line, which you have to be very, very pleased with, because that's honestly the most important. Like, you can have the best quarterbacks, the best safeties, the best defensive backs, but if you're not getting pressure to the quarterback, what are we talking about? If you're not able to generate pressure on the defensive line, if you're not able to defend the run game, what are we talking about? So that is the most, I would say, best takeaway that you could have is that the defensive line, Vic Fangio and Howie Roseman believe, is gonna be legit. Otherwise, you don't trade a great depth piece in Thomas Booker. The Raiders are like, hey, we just released Christian Wilkins. We're missing depth at the defensive line. Pete Carroll loves himself that defensive line, so he got to win the trenches. That was a great move for them to acquire Thomas Booker. On the flip side, let's just talk about Jakorian Bennett, y'all. So Jakorian Bennett is a 4th round pick out of 2023. His rookie season was not good. He also had some injuries, but he was not good. Now, his second season, he was much better before he tore his labrum. And last season, Bennett was targeted 37 times in coverage and allowed 18 receptions for only 176 yards per PFF. His 48.6% targets caught rate was the 3rd lowest among cornerbacks with at least 250 coverage snaps. The thing was, his tackling wasn't that great because he had a 29.2% missed tackle rate on pass plays, which was the highest among that same group. So this is a guy that he was promising. He definitely improved since his rookie season, but once you get injured, you're going to fall in the depth chart if you don't have a solid foundation. So that's the reason why the Raiders traded him, because he might not have made the team to begin with. So we're at the stage of the season, of the offseason in August. Let's be honest, if the Raiders are trading this guy, he wasn't that great. I think what Howie is banking on is that Vic Fangio is the defensive coordinator that we know is the best in the game, and he can fulfill the potential that Jakorian Edwards has. That's the goal. Now let's talk about what this really means. What this really means, and the part that I'm very, very concerned about, I'll be honest. And when I say concerned, I mean this is concerning for a Super Bowl favorite. These are like Super Bowl problems. But the Eagles' biggest issue is going to be who is opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. The competition was between Kelee Ringo and Adoree Jackson. But the problem was none of those players distinguished themselves in camp. Nobody has separated themselves. Kelee Ringo is the guy that the Eagles fans, we all want him to win the starting job. He's a Georgia Bulldog. He got drafted in 2023. Younger guy. You want him to fulfill his full potential and be a dog next to Quinyon Mitchell. The thing was, he has not answered the bell. Like, you can hope for somebody all you want, but if they don't maximize that opportunity, that's on them. I can have high aspirations for my friend to accomplish a certain goal, but ultimately it's got to be them to accomplish that goal. So with Kelee Ringo, he has not separated himself enough from Adoree Jackson, who is a veteran with his first, couple of weeks, couple of months in the Vic Fangio system. I am concerned that Kelee Ringo has consistently had PIs and has gotten beat deep. And I'm thinking to myself, what's about to happen against George Pickens? What's about to happen against Jameson Williams? Because Quinyon Mitchell is traveling with the number ones. He's going to be traveling with CeeDee Lamb. He's going to be traveling with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going to be traveling with, hell, if they get him back, Scary Terry. But who's going to get Debo? Like, we laughing about Debo, but if Kelee Ringo can't guard Terrace Marshall Jr. or Elijah Cooks in training camp, he cannot guard Debo Samuel. So ultimately, this tells me that Kelee Ringo is not ready for the moment. Now, maybe what this does is that this fuels a fire under Kelee Ringo, given that you have new competition that is clearly showing the front office and coaching staff does not believe that you are completely ready for this opportunity. So maybe that this fuels some fire and be like, all right, let me prove to y'all I'm one of them, I'm him. But regardless, hopefully that this brings the best out of this group. We need it, bro. We absolutely need it. But we're going to see, and we're going to flat out see just what this group does. I do think there should be a level of concern. The fact that you're relying on Jakorian Bennett to potentially replace Darius Slay. You're relying on potentially Kelee Ringo to get some fuel to his fire and turn up after this trade. So it's a lot of factors that if Darius Slay but if Darius Slay stayed, or if Isaiah Rodgers stayed, Isaiah Rodgers went to the Vikings, Darius Slay went to the Steelers. If either one of those guys stayed, we're not having this type of problem. Now, there was still a drop-off from Isaiah Rodgers to Darius Slay. It wasn't huge, but it was a drop-off. But the drop-off from Darius Slay to Kelee Ringo to Adoree Jackson to potentially Jakorian Bennett, we're going to cross our fingers, is pretty big. So I want to just touch on this one thing, because the one thing with Jakorian Bennett too, outside of him, not really having the type of long-term tape or just consistent tape because of his injury history. The other thing is he is a little bit undersized. He's 5'10", and that has also contributed, I believe, to his missed tackle rate. Now, I think some of that can be coaching and get you in the right positions. But regardless, Darius Slay is 6 foot. and he not going to have those problems of not being able to get guys down and all that stuff. So we're going to have to see how big the drop off is going to be from Darius Slay to these guys, because it's going to be a drop off. It's depending on how big the drop off is. Now, if the drop off is marginal, we cool. We cool. And we got to just have some more faith on the defensive line to pick up that slack. But if it's a huge drop off, now are we asking Cooper DeJean to go outside? Because some of y'all have asked me, hey, like, what are the Eagles going to do with Cooper DeJean? The main goal for Cooper DeJean is to play the nickel, and then in base coverage, he's a safety. That allows him at all times to be on the field. Vic Fangio wants Cooper DeJean to be on the field at all times. I do believe in high leverage moments, he will be at safety. He will be on the outside, depending on what looks Vic Fangio is peeping at. But Vic Fangio, he knows Cooper DeJean is a guy who is extremely versatile. He can play safety, outside, nickel, but he's only one guy. So he's going to move around, especially in high leverage moments, depending on the other guys around him. Like if the Eagles aren't confident in Sidney Brown, but they're more confident in Jakorian Bennett, then you're probably going to see Cooper DeJean play more safety in those high leverage moments, and vice versa. Obviously, we want Sidney Brown to turn up and show out, and we would like Jakorian Bennett, Kelee, Ringo, whoever, to show out on the outside. But what this tells me is you're probably going to see Cooper DeJean more in high leverage moments, be on the outside, because these guys, I'm sorry, I'm not very confident in this group right now. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Let me get to my flight. And subscribe, like, comment, do all that jazz. Share a friend, share a friend. It is Real Talk with MJ, where I know I'll always keep it real. Instant reaction. We out, y'all.